Hey there, my friend Anneli.
Hello.
Welcome again to the Jill Butler Experience. I know we try to do this weekly, but things come up and we are not always going to be able to do it weekly, but we're going to attempt to do it weekly.
Yep.
So, this particular podcast is very interesting and exciting for me because I have a lot of interest in this subject. And I know obviously you have a lot of interest in this subject because you have just been certified and a QHTT,
HT. QHHT.
QHHT. I
Yeah.
always want to say two T's instead of two H's, and I don't know why I do that, but my
Right.
brain wants me to do that. So,
No worries.
anyways, I'm gonna let you take it away what that means and what it's all about.
Sure. So it is the quantum healing hypnosis technique. QHHT.
QHHT, Jill.
QHHT. And this is a technique developed by Dolores Cannon, who was one of the most well-known hypnotherapists, and she is now moved on to the other side, and it became really popular. A lot of people are getting trained in this modality, so it's something that I've been interested in for years. And then the training became available online. They recorded all of, I don't know, all of her sessions, but her sessions live. So it's still her giving the training, and it's videos of her, of the workshops you would attend if you did the in-person, probably a 2 to 4 day intensive. So it's all online. So you could go at your own pace. And then it was also more affordable. And for me, it was a business expense. So that's always, I'm winning.
Yes, yes. And the thing, excuse me, the thing that is really interesting to me, and because I've been following her for many, many years, is she's written many, many, many books. So
Yeah.
she is an author on top of teaching this. And the thing that I really resonate with her is she's talking about things that are happening right now on
Mhm.
the physical plane that we live in.
Right.
And she had predicted almost as like an oracle a lot of these things, and like she learned them through her hypnosis with her clients. She
Mhm.
learned about the things that she wrote in books, the things that are happening right now in, society. And so I just want people to know that little bit of chunk about her, because I feel like she was such a pioneer. Like when she started doing this, it like hypnosis was barely recognized, and definitely not by women.
Oh, no.
So she like really was like at the forefront of what she does, or what she had did. She was at the forefront of it, and she had to like really step into like a man's world. And I think that's just really poetic in this day and age, in the divine feminine that we're all feeling, that she's honored and understood in that way. But anyways, I'm gonna be quiet now and let you talk about your session with your mother. Like that is really cool.
Yeah, and maybe I'll share a little more because
Oh,
people
sure, sure.
maybe don't know what this is, like what the heck's happening. And also, oh, I don't want to be hypnotized, or I can't be hypnotized. What are you going to do to me? There are a lot of fears, and there are a lot of weird things in movies. It's presented as they're waving a watch or a pendulum, and then you're losing control and they're making you do things on stage, or, that's not really what's happening. And then this form of therapy, well, it's not therapy, you can't call it therapy, this technique that she developed, what's happening is she's guiding you into a really relaxed state of consciousness, which is the theta brainwave state. And most hypnotists are not trained to lead you into theta, because they would say, oh, weird stuff happens there. They would probably stay more up in alpha, which a person could get to if they close their eyes and they start breathing, and maybe you get there. But she was interested, hey, that's where the good stuff happens. People started, unbeknownst to her, jumping into past lives, or off planet, or as an animal, or who even knows. And that's when she realized something's going on here. And there's a lot of information to be learned, because most people throughout history were using hypnosis for weight loss, or stopping smoking, or doing drugs
Right.
or patterns. And she was no, this is so much deeper. And so in QHHT, it's not just about that you might experience a past life that perhaps could give you information related to this life or a situation. It's that then in that relaxed state, you can access what she called the subconscious, which really is not the subconscious, because a lot of people associate that with psychology or Freud. Really, it's probably just like and it's beyond your higher self. It's just this greater power. It's this great energy that has access to all the information of you and everyone. And it's a huge potential for healing. And so she started being able to communicate to this subconscious, and it could give information about the client. And then, as you were saying, then it started relaying information to her that she wrote into books about our world. And again, she didn't write any of that information, right? She received that information to be given out to humanity. So in a session, nothing's ever guaranteed, right? And sessions can be really long. So you come for a session, and the goal of having a session is that you come with questions, maybe of physical problems or mental or emotional relationship. It doesn't matter. So you come with a list of questions, and then you would get to know and talk to the client for hours. She does specify hours, and this isn't me talking or interjecting, it's you. I just let you talk, and I'm asking questions so I can know who you are, about your childhood, about your life, about your hopes and your dreams, because one, you have to get the person to be comfortable and trust you. That takes a little bit of time. And two, people reveal information about themselves when they're talking. And you have to be alone, because some people think, oh, I want my friend to be here. Nope, you're alone. And I guarantee you, when some of this shit comes out, you don't want them in there. What if it was about them? So anyway, no one else is in there. And then after that, which is it was a lengthy process, then you would go, and she recommends that you lie in a bed. Now, I don't have a bed, but I do have a massage table, and and that's good enough, because when people lie down and they have a pillow and a blanket, they do start to feel comfortable. Right. I think it's kind of awkward if I start having like a mattress here at my studio and they're like, what's going on in there?
Maybe inappropriate.
those hippies, man, they're really doing things. And so, yeah, I did my first session with my mom yesterday, because it was a good timing, and I want to do it with someone who I know and I trust, and who will, I feel safe, because I'm, leading someone into this state. And I did break a rule. I didn't interview her for hours, but I have interviewed her for 38 years. So
I think you could bypass that one part of it.
Just because I'm actually close with my mom, and I do know a lot about her, and we talk about a lot of stuff, but she did bring questions. And so we did talk about that for quite a while. And then we began. And so an important part of learning this training, which I already have a lot of training, I'm a trained music therapist, which is in modality, I'm a trained therapist with all these extra musical and creative experience level of training. We talk a lot about voice and, guided relaxation and things like that, because, you're not just talking normally when you're leading someone down into this state.
Right.
The specific style. So it went well. And then, the person's lying down, and you don't cover their eyes, and you have a light on in the room, because you don't want it to be dark. You want them to feel comfortable, and you're watching their body as they go down into the state, because the body will give you signs and cues. Instead of breathing up here in their chest, they start breathing in their belly, and they stop doing any extra restless movements. And then they get into theta, their eyeballs start moving when you're in the REM state, which if you've seen people sleeping, you can see their eyes moving. Yeah. So when you're shifting them into the right brain, which is where you visualize things. And so once you go there, then you basically, you do a lot of stuff, and then you bring them onto onto a cloud, and then the cloud is going to land down. And then after that, who knows? Who
So
knows?
what happened with your mom? I'm so excited to hear.
So as she got off the cloud, and then she was, she could see shoes, and then she could identify that they seemed not moccasins, but something like that. And she kind of had a big hat, and she was a young man, and she was out on this land, and she was
Ooh.
very connected to this land. And then we went into the house. So when you arrive, you want to establish the scene so that they are, what is my body? Who am I? What type of thing is going on? Let them go to their at the scene. And then not much was going on in the house, because that this person probably didn't spend a lot of time in the house. They were living and working on the land. And what's interesting for my mom, she could feel things very physically in her body. She started feeling, so she was connected to this land, and there were some beautiful trees that she was really talking, like there was some kind of profound things that had been happening with those trees. And then we moved forward to an important day in this man's life. And then all of a sudden it was like this like horrible, strong pain, and like heart beating really fast. And then it turned out that they were in like a trench somewhere, like in a war. And then all this, like she felt it, even though you can give cues, like you don't have to feel this physically, you can just observe, but she felt it. And then all of a sudden it was just over. And so then we went to the other side, and then you can ask information, like what was the purpose of this life and all of that. And the purpose of that life was connection to the land and experiencing that, and this deep reverence and presence of oneness with nature, and how important that was to her. And so then we said, well, let's move to another life. And so then, you float around, and then she arrived, and then she was like maybe a middle-aged woman who seemed to be Native American.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And so they had, different clothes, and was with community, was in a village, and it seemed more like a desert. And what was interesting in these experiences, there weren't really people there. I mean, they sort of were, but not exactly, because it seemed like there was a theme going on that she felt alone.
Wow.
She felt alone. And so we moved her to an important day, and it was just having a meal in community. They were sitting on hides, eating, basic food, maybe like some cornmeal dish, who knows, and didn't seem like there was a husband there. Couldn't really figure it out, but just kind of living, again, just a simple life, connected to the land, connected to nature. And then an important day was actually a really sad day, because it was like, you're being forced to leave. And it wasn't yeah. And so then she felt really sad. And again, maybe just like myself, she felt it really physically, and she felt lots of heat. And she was talking about her chakras, or like, I feel this in my solar plexus and different sensations, and we have to leave. And it was really sad, and it was painful. And then you move them, you're supposed to move them to and through their death scene, because sometimes people carry on problems from their death into the next lifetime. So you want to make sure to resolve it in case there was an issue. And then her death, she was just lying in a bed, and someone who appeared to be her daughter was there. And it wasn't, it wasn't bad. It was just, again, just like a simple ending, natural. And then from the other side, she was able to say the meaning, the purpose was to, again, experience community and realize how important community and family.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And again, that presence, that connection to nature. And so after that, it seemed like, well, that's already been about an hour. You don't want to leave someone in a state of trance longer than 2 hours, and you want to get to the subconscious. So then you do that whole thing. And since I'm not Dolores Cannon and I'm, you know, and people have resistance. I mean, so then you ask if you can access the subconscious of this person. And, you know, she was saying yes. And sometimes people start talking in third person. And so basically you start saying, of all these lives, why did you pick these lives to show Carolyn today? And they said the main reason was to help her remember to be present in her life.
Ooh, okay.
And that she needs to be present, and that connection to the land and community is really important, and that she's been missing some of that. And then there were a bunch of questions she had that we asked about. And so it's a little mix of like, are you accessing maybe her or some part of her higher self? It didn't really feel like this great all-knowing subconscious, but you know, you have to realize that people and their logical mind, there's a lot of resistance sometimes. And so just to ask someone to kind of step away, I mean, that's a weird thing. You're not actually going anywhere, but let the consciousness of Carolyn Fitz just kind of go over here, and you can observe, and let's connect here. But there's, you know, this control. And my mom is very much into control and kind of analytical and scientific and other aspects. So there was a lot of information gleaned. And when she listens to the recording, she's going to be hearing her voice saying things that she desperately needs to hear.
And that's
From
really,
herself.
that's really, really interesting, because when you say it yourself, how can you argue with that? Like, if you said it, she could say, well, you know, you made this up.
Yep.
Anneli. But because she said it out of her own mouth, that's there's a lot of power in that. And like, I feel like that's a very big key, to the technique, is that it's coming out of you, and it's your words and your feelings and your connection to yourself. And all you're doing is facilitating the space for it. You're holding the space, and you're asking the questions, and you're guiding her, like as if you're holding her hand, literally, back into herself. And then and then walking her back to her current consciousness and reality. So that's really super interesting. And even though she has more of the analytical, you know, type of mindset, did she accept, like when you were all said and done and you talked about it, because I'm sure you talked about it when she came out, how did she respond and handle the all those truths? Like, was she like skeptical, or was she like, yeah, that I get it?
Yeah, she was very she believed it. She knew, and she even said that. And so after you do that, then if you know you want to work with someone again, after the subconscious, and then that fades away and everything like that, you make sure to really separate the lives. Then you could find a keyword that the client gives you, so that next time when you work together, you don't have to do that long 15-minute induction. You just say the word, and it'll put them back into that state, which I think is cool, because, you know, instead of like down, down, down. So we did that. And then, and then they come out, and then you go to the bathroom, and then we talked, and she said it was real. You know, it was. I felt those emotions. I couldn't create them, and I couldn't make up that life. And it was kind of just her mind trying to make sure, and, you know, that was really real. That was so visceral. She couldn't set heartbeat faster, and she thought it was really great. And she had a good experience. And, you know, it's really important to listen to the recording a few times so you can assimilate. And then again, you're hearing your own words that you need to hear. And because there was a lot of stuff. My mom's in a big transition point in her life. She's 78, and she's recently made a big life change, as in like she's just kind of doing her own thing now. Not technically divorcing, but not being with with my stepfather because she's still living and wants to keep living, and he's not. Well, I mean, he's more dying. He's not like in hospice or anything, but he is. And so that's a very complicated thing. I actually interact with quite a few women who are of a certain age who they're kind of thriving and they're really wanting this spiritual self and journey, and then these men over here are just like falling to pieces and they're not focused on that. And it seems so important for these women, and I get it, like they really want to nurture that emotional, energetic, spiritual component.
That's so interesting. That it's interesting because me and you both have parents in their 70s.
Yep.
So like the whole time you're talking about this, like I'm thinking of my mom and dad and where they're both at. And it's so interesting. Like now, is your real father still alive or?
Yeah, he's alive. He's 84.
Wow.
My mom had me when she was 40.
That's
And
so amazing. I have two cousins that are on the Butler side, so on my dad's side, that have had kids in their 40s.
Okay.
So my cousin Terry had a child in her 40s, and my cousin Linny has had a child in her 40s. So I think that it's tremendous, and there's something to say for that. Like in my mind, when I was young, I'm like, I want to have my kids when I'm young because I want to have like a second life where like once they leave, I can have another life. And so I strategically planned it to have them when they're young. But the thing about having a child when you're older is you have a lot more, you might not have the energy that you had, but you have a lot more wisdom because you've been through a lot more things. Between 20 and 40, there's like a lot that happens to you. So I think that, you know, each age that you have a child is what you're meant to, when you're meant to have them. Like there's no right or wrong or good or bad. It's all, you know, upon the person that chooses to have a child. But it's so much harder physically on your body to wait until you're 40 because your body is so different when you're as you age. It's just harder and harder for your body to go through certain things. Even if you're really in good shape, it's hard. So there, to me, I have a lot. What was that?
It was not planned.
But I have a lot of respect for women that do choose to have children at that age. Sure. Because if you go back in ancestrally in history, women were having children until they couldn't physically have them anymore. So like until they had menopause, they were still having children, like 50s, even probably somewhere in history, 60s. Like it's insane, like how, like when you think about, when you go back and you look at like how old women were still having children, it's amazing to me. It's like, wow.
Amazing experience. And so what was important, I think, for my mom in this situation is that this was the first time she's really made a choice just for herself, because she made choices when she was younger for her parents, and then she got married and for these men. And then I do have older brothers. So, I mean, in between this time, she wasn't just living, you know, she made choices for children and all these people. And this choice she made at 78 was just for her. And it was
so cool.
The hardest thing she may have ever done, because it took so much courage, which those are the words that she used yesterday in the session. It took courage. And, you know, she was saying all the things that she needed to be doing. And, you know, again, it's really,
wow
to her. So I'm excited for her to listen to it, because again, can you imagine there are a lot of emotions associated with making this type of choice, because there is another person there who doesn't really understand and or 100% respect it. But it's more like, am I supposed to live the rest of my life suffering and not enjoying it because society told me I have to do this? Fuck that. I'm sorry to swear, but no way.
So how cool that you're her daughter and that you could guide her through this. So like you gave her the ultimate gift of being able to tap into the understanding that this is what she wanted, but there was like a little blockage
Yeah.
that was like, which was probably society, which was
Oh,
probably family, which was probably so many things that were in between her and what she really wanted to do. And what you did with this quantum healing hypnosis is you were able to tap her into. So to me, like, this is like similar, like obviously different, but similar to like a psychedelic experience. So like if you like use like ayahuasca or like mushrooms, and you get into an altered state of yourself, sometimes you're able to bring yourself to that deep consciousness of who you are through
right.
that substance. And so hypnosis is similar without the drug,
Yeah.
without a substance. It's like that same type of thing, going into your subconscious, going into your deeper self, but doing it through, breathing and speaking and all the techniques that you obviously have to learn.
Yeah.
Um, how cool is that that you were able to give that gift to your mom, and that your mom trusted you? Obviously, I know you're her daughter, but it doesn't qualify like trust. Like,
Not
people
necessarily.
can be someone's daughter and that doesn't mean they're going to trust them. So she trusted you on this very blind test of like what could happen and what may happen. And it probably at 78 years old, if I would be so bold as to say, it probably scared the crap out of her of like what really could happen. Like, oh my
Yeah.
God, what if I had this horrible experience and I have to relive it? And obviously some of it was horrible. Like, it wasn't like a great experience to, feel like when she was in a war or something. I mean, nobody's like dying to have that experience, but having that experience and going through those feelings made her realize about this life and who she is now and what she wants now, and like
Exactly.
gave her the bigger picture, like the big picture.
Yeah. Yeah. And I, I just think it's funny you're talking about psychedelics because I'm not going to tell that whole story, but the point is, I did give my mom another experience a few Mothers a Day, like on Mother's Day a few years ago. And I think she was very much happy about this experience because let me just tell you that when you're 75 years old and you've never eaten a psychedelic, and then your daughter gives you 2 hits of something, well,
Are you, and she agreed to this?
oh yeah.
Well, see, I think you and your mother are next level. Like, this is like, you're
That
talking about like,
was whoa, I was being guided to make it really strong for some reason, but let's just say that experience was really intense because when it came on, there was 75 years of pain and agony that needed to be broken through. So the first 30 minutes was screaming. It's like, like in her body. And so that was really crazy. And it did release a lot of stuff, but I'm like, that was a horrifying experience in her mind. So,
what, I'm literally trying to process this as we're recording this and as we're talking, and I'm like having a really hard time like trying to visualize this whole thing. And like, I just think that you guys have like an awesome connection, that she even trusted you to like never do anything like that, and then to wait until she's 75 years old and have her daughter assist her.
yeah.
I mean, that brings up a story with me and my son, which I won't talk about because I don't have prior permission. And I know that this could be seen by a lot of people. And I don't want to go there yet. Like, I will actually ask him about that if I can speak about it on video. But like, obviously your mom is like really like next level cool if she like allowed you to assist her on a psychedelic journey. I feel like that's really like, not only is it cool, but like it's just a level of trust
Yeah.
and intimacy that two people, no matter who they are, that
Mm-hmm.
difference of age group,
Right.
that's a very like, that's very powerful. Like, I talk to my dad all the time about things I do. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I taught him how to do the cold water thing. He
Right.
doesn't do an ice plunge, but he does cold showers. And for
Some,
him, that's a big deal. And
mm-hmm.
like, there's different things that I've brought to him over the years that he's tried and that he does. And it's interesting. But I even though I'm very close to my dad, I couldn't imagine being like, "Hey dad, like, I want you to do this psychedelic." and like have him be like, okay, Jill, let's do it. Like,
I
like hell no.
planted this seed for years.
Well, good job on planting that seed because it grew, obviously. But I mean, I'm sure your mom has witnessed and seen how different things you've done has helped cultivate you. And so she does have a an understanding of like the safety within your realms and what you are and what you've done. And she also knows that you're very experienced in these
Right.
things. It's not like some knucklehead off the street that's just like, hey, let's do this thing. She's like, she's your mother, and she knows that you're gonna, like, no matter what, you're gonna be with her through it. You're gonna hold her hand through it. You're not gonna let anything happen to her. And so, like, I just commend both of you. Like, I didn't think this conversation was going to go into this realm. And like,
Well,
I applaud you
I don't
for
know.
being like, I applaud you for being so vulnerable because, like, I literally the other day on one of my lives, I said that I did mushrooms this past weekend.
Yeah, I
And
saw
like,
that.
and like, that's a big, big thing for me to acknowledge because a lot of people in my Facebook meditation group are family and friends, but they're
Oh,
not just friends that are just like you and I. They're like
right.
friends that are, I would say, to say it nicely, are a lot more square than us
Sure.
in the sense of what they believe and understand. And so, like, for them to like watch that and be like, whoa, like, there's all kinds of things that could come up for them, or
So,
it might change the way they feel about me, which is okay too.
yep.
But I
Always.
felt very guided in that moment to divulge that because I feel like what you're doing, what I'm doing, and what so many other humans are doing is we are being who we are. And
Yeah.
I want to like just state, I'm not trying to be in a soapbox, but I really, really want to like, I want to get home to all people is like, you can only be who you are. Like, you can't be anyone else. So, like, let's start taking off the pretense. Let's start taking off all the costumes and let's just be who we damn are. Like, I am a person that likes to, on occasion, do mushrooms. I feel the benefit. I feel heart opening. I feel clear. I feel like a different level of myself comes through. And I,
Totally.
and I love that. And I love how I am and what I do and how it makes me feel. And I don't feel anything negative, nothing negative about it on any level. I don't get sick. I don't feel sick. I don't feel like I'm not in control of myself.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
I feel actually like I'm actually a better healer and a better space holder when I'm actually on that substance, which some people can't even handle their own shit when
No,
they're
I
on
know.
those substances. But I feel like that substance actually helps me to do a better job at it. Like, I even know more clearly what I'm supposed to be doing and how I'm supposed to be doing it. And I already feel so tapped in. So for me to even be more clear is like a gift. And I
Totally.
see it that way. Like, I
Me too.
never had any bad experience when I've done mushrooms. Like, and I've not done mushrooms a lot, but I've done them a handful of times. And everything has always been clear messages and it's always been heartfelt. And like, people need to understand, like, don't judge something that you don't understand. Like, if you need to go out and read books or watch YouTube videos or like take a microdose yourself, in order for you to understand what something feels like, then do that. But let's not look at each other and point fingers when we don't even understand. I mean, marijuana was considered illegal in New York State. It
Right.
just became legal. Now
Sure.
everybody's like, oh yeah, marijuana, marijuana, marijuana. Guess what? There's been a lot of people using marijuana all their lives. And
Yeah.
now suddenly, because the government says it's okay, now you're going to say, oh, yeah, it's not that bad. It never was bad. Like,
No.
this is the problem. Like, people need to start thinking for themselves.
Think for
They need to
yourself.
start.
Authority.
I mean, I'm not an advocate for being crazy. I'm an advocate for finding out who you are in whatever ways you want to do that. And the
Yeah.
safety of where you choose to do it and who you're with is your business. And
Totally.
if you're doing things that are making the world better because of these choices, then let anybody stand up and say something to me, because guess what? I will have something to say back.
I'm sure you will. Yeah, no, I agree. I have most certainly done almost all of my deep healing through psychedelics, music, and nature all combined together. And with discernment, I tell people that. But, you know, actually, I'm around a lot of square people, a lot. And, you know, people really are, so not everyone, but a lot of people are becoming more and more open. And I find myself thinking, wow, I can't believe I just had that conversation with that person. I'm impressed. I'm so glad. And then I plant more seeds, you know, and it's just a door. That's one door to go through. I happen to love that door. And I just have to be careful. I mean, I've never actually abused psychedelics. It's not something you really can. And after a 12-hour acid trip, I can tell you, you do not want to do it the next day. Or I'm like, I'm so good for like a year, because they're always deep. And I can't say that all mine were like, I mean, they were all, I learned a lot and powerful. They were not all like beautiful. Sometimes they're so intense. I'm doing work at a level that is incomprehensible, that's related to like ancestral healing of my lineage and beyond. And it's excruciating sometimes, but then at the end, you know, it's really important, it's necessary. There's been every type of trip. I have not just used it a little bit, I've used it a lot, all of them. And if you're scared to use them, that's okay too, but it kind of gives me a clue to someone that they're scared to look at themselves. And that's also totally fine. And maybe they don't need that door. Maybe they want to do the holotropic breathwork door or like some other door, but don't, you know, not looking at yourself. And like you said, taking the mask off and being able to look yourself in your eyes and see what's there, and then just to be who you are. I mean, if you don't do that this lifetime, you're gonna want to come back in the next lifetime, because you'll be like, oh man, I didn't do it. I still wasn't really myself. And
Well,
you know,
and don't you think too, Anneli, that the more people like us discuss this and have the conversations and be truthful around our peers and around our people, the more that we're going to give them permission within
sort of,
themselves to step in these realms. And for me, it's like when I do those Facebook lives, I know that there's going to be all different kinds of people watching it, because I see who watches them.
sure.
When they're on my story on Facebook, I can see who watches them. When they're
Yeah.
just viewed and on the page, I can't see. I just can see how many views. But I generally know who's watching them. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like anybody that is watching that, if they get to hear my story or my experience or just feel my energy, because we talked about how we have codes in our voice,
Yeah.
it will open somebody somewhere along the line to be able to be comfortable to potentially have the experience for themselves
Yep.
and maybe benefit from the experience. Because I have to admit, when I was going through my years, I was always skeptical to do things, because I always felt like, because I worked with the angelics and because I was holding a certain kind of space, that I was like, in my own mind, this is my story,
Yeah.
I was like saying, oh, that you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that, because you're holding yourself at this high level of doing this work. And in some ways, yes, but in some ways, no. It's like I was guided to do those mushrooms last summer.
Right.
And if I didn't do those mushrooms in a larger dose, because I've microdosed before, if I didn't do those mushrooms in a larger dose and trust, because I was very guided by Mother Earth, by Gaia. I was like, I was guided, do this with these people. And I was like, yeah, and they're like, no buts. They're like, do this. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, well, all right, like I'm with my friends, I'm on land, I'm safe, like all the things in my mind that I had to check off, I checked off in my logical mind. And then I did it. And then I had the most magical experience. And if I did not trust myself, and I did not trust that voice, and I did not trust my guidance, I would have never done it. But
You
if
would
you would have said to me the day before I did it, last summer,
Yeah.
if Jill, would you do this? I'd be like, no, I won't do that. I don't need to do. In my mind, I was like, I don't need to do that. I'm
Yeah.
good. But I did need to do that, because once I did that, it opened up a whole nother level of me that was dormant, that I thought was not dormant, but it was dormant. And then I met some very specific people, and then I did some work with them that
Yeah.
I would never have even done because I wouldn't have been vulnerable enough to do the work with them. And so it all happened synchronized exactly the way it's supposed to. But if I didn't say yes and do it, I wouldn't be able to do it last weekend. I wouldn't be able to be strong enough to talk about it like in a podcast that, hundreds of people could watch, thousands maybe, if it ever goes there.
Yep. That's okay, world. I tell people freely, like, again, like, maybe it's just because we're Sagittarius. I don't really know, but I know that's something we have in common. But like, I'm not scared. I am who I am. And I say this stuff and the words just fall out and then they land or not. And then the rest. But this has just been my journey that I think it's been incredibly healing to me. And that's why I'm interested in these altered states, is because of that. But that's why I'm interested in QHHT, because leading people there naturally, and then you don't have to have like 6 to 8 hours and all this stuff, but you can still lead them in there and they can have these experiences. And those are really important because there's messages there's deep healing in these altered states, whether it's from a substance or a breath or whatever it is. But again,
or the universe giving you a near death experience. Did you get a chance to watch the one with Dave Bennett? Like, he had multiple experiences, and like those experiences were just as powerful as
totally.
QHT or psychedelics, and like they changed him. Like he was like a total like analytical, like sciencey guy who like didn't believe in any of this, like didn't believe in anything like spiritual. And he literally, was tossed in the ocean, died, came back and was like, oh, wait a minute, there's something I don't understand. Let me investigate this.
It's beautiful. And there's another guy who was a hypnotherapist too, many masters, many lives. That guy, I forget his name right now, but he was also similar, very scientific, analytical, and he was doing this hypnotist work. And then this woman went into a past life. And then again, he opened and he went on to go deep into that realm. And then in between those states, these other entities started relaying information to him. And that just changed his life. And again, it keeps changing the field of hypnotherapy and people recognizing that there's a lot more evidence to this field than something called psychiatry. Okay, and we don't need to go. They're going to all be dosed one day, in my mind.
Anneli is going to dose the psychiatrist of the world. Watch out. Don't come to visit her.
Make sure to drink the water.
Oh my God, I love you. See, the thing is about us people, like we have good sense of humors. Like we laugh all the time. And like maybe that's another trait that like I think me and you both have in common, is that we're silly all the time and we love to laugh. And Sagittarians can be saying the most serious thing and be laughing at the same time. And like I love that about us.
Yeah, I can get pretty serious, so I have to remember to keep it light, but I do laugh a lot and say things and then laugh afterwards. And people have told me, they're like, I don't know how you do that, but that made it land better, because maybe someone would have said that and not laughed and it'd be like, whoa.
No, sometimes I do this as well, but I don't do it consciously, where I'll be saying something to somebody and I'll be like totally like giving them a real raw truth, but I'll be like laughing and being silly, and they're like they totally accept it. And I'm like, yeah, like I guess that's kind of like that's like a tool that we have that, like now I can talk about it because I realize it from having enough conversations with people and having feedback on my conversations with them. But all along, like I wasn't consciously doing it. It wasn't like I set out to do it. Like it just happens that way.
Yourself, I'm being myself, and that's your wish and my wish and many's wish. Just be yourself. I don't care who it is, and I don't know who that is. Just do it and be it. But you can feel when someone's not comfortable in themselves. And again, I don't care. It doesn't bother me. Okay. But maybe you want to feel better and more comfortable and natural. And so just go out and do that. It's like you know, a bamboo tree will never be an oak tree, and they're just different. Okay. So stop trying to be someone else. Just be who you are. And if it's weird, great, even better.
Oh, like that's the thing. Like I got told today by this guy that I work with, who I is friend. It's so funny. Like we're friend. We both have mutual friends in like the music industry around Syracuse, and he's an electrician. He does contract work in our building, and his name is Mike. And he is so funny. Like we talk, and he's like, "I told my girlfriend about you, and I told her you were weird." And then I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I am. So that's definitely true." And then he goes, do you know what the definition of weird is? He said something about supernatural. I was like, oh, wow, I like that. Like, I
That's a
didn't
good one.
know that was like the technical definition of weird. And I was like, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I guess I am supernatural. Like, I just started laughing. I was like, it's funny. Like, I didn't even know that that was the definition of weird. Did you?
I didn't, but I'll take it. And I also have to go get some supernatural things going on doing
Mm.
Kundalini
Yeah.
yoga.
Yay. Well, no, this is actually, I feel like this is our best conversation yet.
Good.
I really think that we
My name,
both were.
you keep saying my
Well,
name right and then wrong, my name right and wrong, but I think you're tired or something. It's all good. You know it, you don't know it, you know it. It's okay. You know, we're connecting to a different part of me.
I love you, girlfriend.
It's all
So
good.
I am super happy that we were able to come on and chat.
Yeah.
And let's do it again soon. And good luck with your yoga tonight.
Lots of breathing time.
Yes, and breathing is so important. So
Yeah. Great.
with that said, you have a lovely evening and we will talk soon.
Yay. Sana.
Bye.